Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome to the City Planning Commission public meeting of March 16, 2022. I am going to ask Ryan Singer, the Senior Director of Land Use and Commission Operations, to outline the general information about our remote public hearing and how you can participate today. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning. Verbal testimony may be provided online or by calling in on your telephone. If you wish to speak, you must register through the NYC Engage portal. If you wish to access the hearing, please register the upcoming meetings page of the NYC Engage portal. A link to join the hearing is on the landing page after you register. Don't close that landing page without first clicking on the link. If you're accessing the hearing via phone and wish to speak, you must first register with the dial-in participant hotline at the numbers listed on the screen. If one of the numbers is busy, please try another. The meeting ID is 618-237-7396. Press pound to skip the participation ID. The password is the numeral 1. The phone number is also posted on the upcoming meetings page of the NYC Engage portal. Note that no matter how you're accessing the meeting, you must first register if you want to speak. Those accessing the meeting online will have the option to turn on their camera while giving testimony. So when it is your turn to speak, you'll be notified and promoted to a panelist. This will allow you to unmute your microphone and grant you the ability to turn on your camera. Please listen closely for your name to be called. There will be a short period where it will appear that you're no longer in the meeting. Don't be alarmed. You should rejoin the meeting as a panelist. If you're accessing the hearing via phone, your name will be called from a list of registered speakers. Once your name has been called, you'll be given the temporary ability to unmute yourself. You do this by pressing *6 to unmute your phone. For those listening to the hearing through the live stream who decide that they wish to speak during the hearing, they must first register to speak through the upcoming meetings page in the NYC Engage portal. It's not possible to testify through the online live stream without first having registered. The same goes for those here listening via phone. They have to register through the dial-in participant hotline that I described a moment ago. It's not possible to testify without first having registered. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes of testimony, with a few exceptions. Elected officials are accorded the courtesy of jumping to the front of the queue and are not limited in time. If consecutive translation services are being used, the time will be extended to 5 minutes. And if an applicant team with 3 or more speakers wishes to make a team presentation, the team will generally be allowed a total of 10 minutes. The chair will announce when the time limit is reached. Be mindful of potential background noise during your testimony. Make sure that you're watching the proceedings via live stream, that the live stream is muted when you begin your testimony. Otherwise, you will hear an echo. And if you wish to submit written testimony, it should be submitted to the Department of City Planning. The mailing and email addresses can be found on our website, planning.nyc.gov. And note that this remote public hearing is being recorded.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. And good morning again to everyone, commissioners, members of the public. Welcome to today's City Planning public hearing. My name is Dan Garodnick, and I am the chair of the City Planning Commission. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, today is an opportunity for members of the public to testify on land use applications in public review. The City Planning Commission will also vote today on several applications that had their public hearings recently. Today, there's 4 public hearings scheduled, 1 for a project in Queens and the other 3 for projects in Brooklyn. Big day for Brooklyn hearings today. On Vernon Boulevard in Long Island City, we're going to hear about an application to create a 9-story building with more than 100 homes, around 26 of them affordable, and office and light industrial space, such as possibly food processing or jewelry making, as an example. In Brooklyn, Broadway Triangle Bartlett Crossing is an application from the city's own housing agency, HPD. for us to facilitate the development of a new 9-story building that will include 29 affordable homes. On Cropsey Avenue, we'll hear a private application for development in the community of Gravesend, also Brooklyn. The application seeks to include office space in the ground floor of a residential building that is currently under construction. And finally, on Lorimer Street in Greenpoint, we will hear a private application to develop a new 10-story building of 74 homes and office space. We're going to look forward to hearing from the public on these applications and continuing our work of getting things done in this city. Now, if you want to learn about these applications and many others that are at various points in the process, I highly recommend that you visit ZAP, which is our one-stop shop for all of the details on every project that is currently in public review. And you can find that at zap.planning.nyc.gov. I will note that ZAP is just a much cooler way of saying zoning application portal. I will note that this agency is committed to excellent acronyms. I also encourage you to follow our Twitter at NYC Planning for all the latest news and fun facts from city planning. First, though, we're going to go through the approval of many of our meeting minutes from the last meeting of March 2, scheduling for future hearings, and a series of votes as promised. So let me first turn to Sarah Avila to get this conversation started. Madam Secretary, good morning. The floor is yours.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely through the NYC Engage portal. Today is Wednesday, March 16, 2022. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick.
I'm here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Burney.
Here.
Commissioner Capelli.
Present.
Commissioner Rullo.
Here.
Commissioner Dewick.
Here.
Commissioner Edie. Commissioner Goodrich.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
You're
Here.
gonna get quiet.
A quorum is present. The first item is approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022.
Great. Thank you very much. On the minutes, I make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, March 2, 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The minutes are approved.
Scheduling. Calendar numbers 1 through 11. We have resolutions for adoption scheduling Wednesday, March 30th, 2022 for a public hearing to be held through the NYC Engage portal. In the event that the suspension of the in-person meeting requirement of the open meeting law lapses, the meeting will be held in person at 120 Broadway with the remote participation available to the public. Please check our website or nyc.gov/engage for updates.
Great. Thank you, Madam Secretary. On the resolutions, I make a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Great, thank you. Resolutions are adopted, and I just will note again what the Secretary said about the possibility or even likelihood of in-person meeting on the next go-around. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
The next part of the calendar is the reports section on page 28. Reports. Borough of the Bronx, calendar numbers 12 and 13, Our Lady of Pity, 272 East 151st Street rezoning. CD1, calendar number 12, C 210321 DMX, calendar number 13, N 210322 ZRX. And the matter of application for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning Our Lady of Pity, 272 East 151st Street rezoning. For reports on calendar numbers 12 and 13, Chair Garodnick.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Nichols.
Yes.
Commissioner Burney.
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Dewick.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich.
I'm recusing myself.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I plan
Yes.
something romantic.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 12 and 13. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 14 and 15, 103 Lee Avenue, CD1, calendar number 14, C210312 ZMK, calendar number 15, N210313 ZRK, in the matter of application for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 103 Lee Avenue. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 14 and 15, Chair Garodnick,
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Burney,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Duick,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 14 and 15. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 16 and 17, 3285 Fulton zoning. CD5, calendar number 16, C220111 ZMK, calendar number 17, N220112 ZRK, in the matter of application for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the 3285 Fulton Street rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 16 and 17, Chair Garodnick,
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Burney,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Duick,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie. Oh, Commissioner Edie is absent. Commissioner Goodrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 16 and 17. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 18 and 19, 1220 Avenue P rezoning. CD 15, calendar number 18, C210098 ZMK, calendar number 19, N210099 ZRK, in the matter of application for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the 1220 Avenue P rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 18 and 19, Chair Garodnick,
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Burney,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Duick,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich, Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 18 and 19. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 20 and 21, 14693 Guy Brewer Boulevard rezoning. CD 13, calendar number 20, C200246 ZMQ, calendar number 21, N200247 DRQ, in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the 14693 Guy Brewer Boulevard rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 20 and 21, Chair Garodnick,
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Burney,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Duick,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich,
No.
Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 20 and 21. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 22, 48 Portland Avenue. This item has been laid over. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 23, 24, and 25, 153 Highland Avenue. CD1, calendar number 23, N210343 ZAR. Calendar number 24, N210344 ZAR. Calendar number 25, N210345 ZAR. And the matter of application for the grant of authorizations concerning 153 Highland Avenue for adoption on calendar number 23, 24, and 25. Chair Garodnick,
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles,
Yes.
Commissioner Burney,
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Duick.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Levin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 23, 24, and 25 have been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 45.
Great. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Again, we ask those who are testifying today to limit their remarks to 3 minutes, after which time you'll be muted. Let's see if, Ryan, do you have any further reminders for people who wish to testify before we go to the applicant team on the first item?
Only that they, this is a applicant team, and so that they are limited to 10 minutes and they have 3 people sign up to speak.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And I will note that if you'd like to speak, you got to register first. And if you miss the instructions at the top, nyc.gov/NYC, you can get a little more information there about how to register either on the live stream or via phone. Great. Thank you, Ryan. Madam Secretary.
Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 26 and 27, 3501 Vernon Boulevard rezoning, CD1, calendar number 26, C220050 ZMQ, calendar number 27, N220051 ZRQ, public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 3501 Vernon Boulevard rezoning.
Excellent. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn to the applicant team on 3501 Vernon Boulevard rezoning. We have several people signed up to present. We have Eric Palatnik, Alvin Shine, Silas Levitt, Carlene Guzman, and together the applicant team has 10 minutes. And when you are ready, you may proceed.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. My name is Eric Palatnik, and I am representing E&I Distributors in this phenomenal application we've done with a joint collaboration with the community. And I'd also like to congratulate the chair and other members of city planning to their recent appointments. And I'd also like to wish everybody who's celebrating a happy and festive Purim. I know that's coming up. As far as the application goes, it's a phenomenal application to request this development you see in front of you, which will result in a 9-story mixed-use building, which, if it were approved, it would create 106 apartments, 26 units of which would be permanently affordable. It's done in conjunction with HANEC, which is a local not-for-profit operator that will be administering the affordable components. It's been done with years and many meetings with Community Planning Board 1 in Queens. And there have been discussions with the previous council person, and we're attempting to get in touch with the current councilwoman who just, I understand, gave birth to a beautiful baby. So we're a little delayed on that. We'll wait. Next slide, please. If the application, there you go. This is the ownership entity. Next slide, we'll click to. Slide, please. This is what the site looks like right now. It's a rather nondescript 1-story building. It's on Vernon Boulevard, basically sandwiched between where the Con Ed plant is, diagonally down the block, and you've got the entrance to Roosevelt Island. It's an R5 zoning district. It's a neighborhood where zoning hasn't really touched it in 50 or 60 years, and it shows in the developments around it. Wherever new development has been encouraged, it has taken root. You can see it here. It's a 2-story former manufacturing building. It's used for auto parts distributorship. The ownership is the developer, and they will be relocating their business and all of their employees to their facility in the Bronx, which most of their employees live at anyway. Next slide, please. Vernon Boulevard is depicted here. You can see the site. You can see diagonally across the street is a basically new residential development. It stands proudly at 17 stories, and you can see the neighborhood character around this is residential. You'll notice in the right of our site is a 4-story building, and that is a cigar factory, former cigar factory, that is a mixed-use light industrial maker space, which we will be having on the 2nd floor of our proposal. And we're working with Bishop Taylor to do that, and hopefully he made it into the call, and he'll tell you what their group is doing with some ideas of some compatible light industrial spaces, like was said by the chair. And next slide, please. The zoning change that we're asking you for is depicted on this slide here on the right side. You can see we're diagonally from an R7-1. We're asking to be rezoned to an R7A, M1-4 R7A to allow for the light industrial uses at the lower floors. You see we're right in the middle of an R5. There is some M1 diagonally across the street. This is a mixed-use neighborhood. That's why we're asking you for the mixed-use classification here. Next slide, please. The proposal here is depicted on the right side. The middle column shows you allowed by the zoning, and the proposal shows you what we're asking for. And just to read down it fairly quickly, you can see it's going to result hopefully in a 95-foot tall building with 107 units and 77 parking spaces and 26 affordable units. Next slide, please. This slide shows you the building in greater detail. The lower slide, if you want to take a look at that one, shows you fairly clearly the location of the retail on all sides of the building. The top side shows you Vernon Boulevard, the middle side shows you 35th, and the bottom side shows you 9th. I know some of the commissioners had questions about the need for retail there. As I said before, next slide, please. There is a burgeoning commercial light industrial uses around us, and we are on the main artery between Long Island City and Socrates Sculpture Park and Howard's Cove, right off of the entrance to Roosevelt Island in an area that's on a major bike path. So we really feel that it's in an emptiness, a vacuum of retail. This shows here with parking at the subcellar, residential above, and the first and second floor is a light industrial and commercial at retail at the first floor. The light industrials at the second floor. If you can go now to the next slide, please. Here's an example of the building heights around us and shows you that we're rather compatible with the new developments around us and the older ones further back on 21st. Next slide, please. This basically just describes what the community board's needs were, and it shows in our approval from the community board, which is nearly unanimous, and they're no easy pushover. We worked with them for years to come up with a development they liked. And that's what we did here, and that's why you see that strong support for this. And we are at option level 1, which Alvin Shine will speak to in a moment. Next slide, please. I'm going to let Bishop Taylor speak for a moment. Bishop Taylor is pictured in the lower left corner. He should be on. He's been working on the light industrial uses in Bishop. Would you like to speak for a moment? And we can go to the next slide while the Bishop is speaking. And would you like to speak for a few moments if you're on the call? I think the Bishop is having difficulty. So I'll move on, and maybe the Bishop will be able to make it in while I keep going.
We have him on to testify, but maybe we'll pull him on after if he's not on as part of the applicant team right now.
He's texting me right now saying, no, I'm here, but obviously.
Okay, yeah, we see him there, but he's not part of the applicant team in our designation. So go ahead, do your thing. We'll get him after.
I figure he'll get on. The next slide, please, is something very cool that the commission, I think, will like. You've probably seen them around. It's called UNI. It's free bike storage. It's very well embraced, I believe, by DOT. They've popped up in the parks in Williamsburg and the new Domino's plan, waterfront park that I believe the commission approved. And it's free bike storage. This will be located within the building. We're going to facilitate a location, and we're making an arrangement with UNI. Shabazz Stewart is the principal, Black-Brown owned entity. And Shabazz is making a splash on bike storage around the city and around the country. And this is right on a bike path, as I mentioned, and we're anxious to do something in corroboration with UNI. Next slide, please. It gives you pretty much some pictures of the building, and I'll click through that. I'll get to the affordability slide. If you can go now 2 or 3 slides forward, you'll see a chart page with the affordability numbers. One more. There you go. I'm going to let Alvin Shine speak for a moment here. If Alvin's on, hopefully. He's our consultant. Hi, good. And while Alvin is speaking, he can toggle between this and the next slide. And then we'll stop talking here. There you go. And we'd like to talk for a moment and let Alvin present the affordability information. So Alvin, would you like to?
Okay, could you go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. So we're proposing affordability under MIH option 1, which I'm sure the commission is very familiar with. This is the preferred method of affordability at this time, and that's what the sponsor wants to do. It also would be compatible with the governor's proposed 485W tax exemption, which of course would have to be adopted in order to make this work, but this would all work. The average AMI being 60% for all units, but there would be a range of affordability. You would have 10% of all the units in the building at 40% AMI, and then 7% at 60% AMI, and 8% at 80% AMI. And so you would have a fairly good range of AMIs for the building. The income range would go for a one-bedroom household from $33,400 per year annual income to $66,880, which again is a pretty good range. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this shows the mix of affordable units in the building. You have a broad range of unit types, which is fairly unusual. You have 5 affordable 3 bedrooms and 3 affordable 2 bedrooms, 23 1 bedrooms, which is proportional to the market rate mix. There are also 2 studios, but it's weighted towards family apartments.
Thank you, Alvin. I'm going to pause you here because we're going to run out of time, and I want the commission.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
You pretty much hit every single point. And they'll come with questions. And I just spoke to the bishop. He was trying to still get in, so I apologize if he can't dial in. To wrap things up, because I see I have another 45 seconds or so, we've really worked quite hard to develop a community-based development here that fits not only within the stated needs of the community board, but actually the verbal needs. We've worked very closely with them. We're anxious to continue our work with the council person who has just taken office, and we'll continue our work there. So we thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. We think it's an exciting development. We think it's a game changer for the neighborhood. And we really appreciate you giving us the chance to present it. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody on the commission may have. Thank you very much, everybody.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. You got a lot in 10 minutes. We appreciate it. I have one question, then I will go to the commissioners. We'll look forward to hearing from Bishop Taylor on details about the light manufacturing. But I wanted to ask you from a land use perspective and from a use perspective, what do you expect the relationship to be between light manufacturing and the residents above in terms of the interaction, the experience? How do we sync manufacturing, light manufacturing or otherwise, with the residential experience over there?
Can you hear me okay?
Ken.
Okay, great. I see my picture might be a little frozen. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. We think it's going to be phenomenal. Maker space is the term for this type of space. It's thriving across the street. If the presenter could pull up the aerial. Bishop, can you speak? I see you're texting me right now. He's texting me, Bishop, to answer that. Is it okay with you, Commissioner, if I called Bishop and I patch him in on a phone line?
Well, I'm gonna ask our technical folks in the background here whether it's possible for him to join your applicant team for the purpose of answering these questions.
This is Mitchell Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Stand by. We're gonna bring him in.
I'm sorry. He's over 40, so he has a tough time with electronics.
There, he should be coming in as a panelist and able to turn on his microphone and camera here.
Great.
Bishop?
I think I'm here.
Bishop, we hear you loud and clear, and don't worry, no comments were made about your age or technological savvy by Mr. So welcome. Good to see you.
Likewise, Commissioner Garodnek and Knuckles and all the commissioners that are gathered today. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today.
The question that I had posed was about the use of the manufacturing space, what is envisioned, and also how we should view it in connection with the broader residential building on top. Obviously, not all manufacturing would be appropriate for the base of a building. So say a little bit about what you anticipate and how we should think about that.
Thank you so much. So as you know, Urban Upbound has been serving public housing communities for the last 18 years in Northwestern Queens, where one of our campuses exists. You have 4 developments: Queensbridge, Ravenwood, Astoria, and Woodside Houses. What has been really evolving in our neighborhood is business innovation. Local residents being assisted by the Business Innovation Department at Urban Upbound that has launched 12 cooperative businesses and assisted entrepreneurs in launching their own businesses in Northwestern Queens. Our vision for this space, building on the passion of the local developer, because he himself is a business owner that is local to the community and hires from the community, has a vision to create a We Make space. So we worked with him to come up with this concept called We Make. And the We Make space will embrace local entrepreneurs and residents in the neighborhood that want to aggregate businesses, start businesses, get a push with their current businesses. And in this space, Urban Upbound will manage the We Make space and give them the wraparound associated services to prop up their business, strengthen their business, and be operational in Northwestern Queens. So it won't be machines and things of that nature. And most of this space will be at low rent or no rent, depending on the portal, the entry portal they come into the program. So it's going to be, creative maker space, but with an urban twist.
Okay, and when you say wraparound services here, so this is not machines, which I now understand, but give us a little more sense of what that is.
So we're in a tech hub. Well, I want to call it kind of a tech hub with Cornell right across the street from us, with UK, Urban Upbound's tech, the Queens Library tech hub, which is 4 blocks away. So we're looking at, the businesses that we're seeing now, web designers, back of the screen, stuff like that, that's happening in the computer design space. We have echo cleaning services. It's a mix of different businesses that will be fielded in this We Make space. So it won't be limited to that, but it'll be like that.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I'm going to go to Commissioner Marine.
Thank you, Chair Garodnick. I have one question, but as the gentleman spoke, I came up with another. My first one is that on the number of units that are affordable, you have 26 on one slide and 33 on the other. Can you clarify which one it's going to be?
I'm sorry, I don't have the slides in front of me, so I was reading.
Yeah, there was one slide where you identified the AMIs, and that had 13, 10, and 3.
Right. So just to be clear, the way it will work is that 25% of the residential floor area will be MIH. To
answer the committee question directly, it's 26 is the correct number. The reason why you see a change is we changed the overall number of the application process to create more family size units. And when we did that, we reduced the total number of units, obviously, because we made them bigger. So it was originally at 33, or whatever number you just listed was a presentation, and we will correct that. I apologize for any confusion from that.
Thank you.
It
Thank you, Eric.
It still reflects the proportional mix to the rest of the building as well.
Understood. The second question would be for, and I'm sorry if it's Bishop. I think it's Bishop. Is that correct, Taylor? You mentioned that in the makerspace, there would be either low cost or no cost space available for the community. How do you envision underwriting the rents or paying for the space where you're having folks come in at no cost?
That's a great question. So, Urban Upbound has 5 campuses operating, brick and mortar campuses operating in the 5 boroughs of New York City. Queensbridge happens to be our flagship, which is composed of business innovation, career services, placement and training, one-on-one financial counseling, youth development, and we own our own bank, the Urban Upbound Federal Credit Union. And so a lot of the businesses that we're developing and a lot of the entrepreneurs that we'll be assisting will be in different spectrums, in different lanes, at different points. And so obviously those that are at the genesis of their journey will probably have no rent or no contribution at all. I'm not even calling it rent in the we make space, but there'll be no contribution at all. But as the businesses are more developed and more defined, then that will help us backfill the resources that we'll need for those struggling businesses or those fledgling businesses that are coming into the network. So it will never be onerous, but it will be something that people will appreciate because they invest in it at the point where they can afford.
Thank you, sir. Understood. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And just to follow up on the question from Commissioner Marin, that's the model of Urban Upbound. That's how it operates. So you give free space to folks who are just getting started, and then as they grow, you I don't know how you formalize the arrangement that you ask them to kick in some support.
Well, actually, it's Commissioner Garadnick. This is actually going to be a 2.0 for us because prior to this project, a lot of our support services have been, certification for MWBE, financing through our Urban Upbound Credit Union, technical assistance with taxes and K-1s and helping our members understand that. Now, we want to move it to a place where we can give them a space to work in and a space to move that business to the next level. Because oftentimes what these small businesses lack is, real good office space with all the bells and whistles that they usually can't afford at that infancy stage. So this will be new for us as we're expanding this model. This we make that I copyright is a new model for us now. And so I'm looking to really expand it in the other campuses around the city as well.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Commissioner Goodrich.
Sorry, I'm getting used to the iPad. I just have a very brief question, and I'm not sure if it was answered before. I was trying to look to see, but is there any one that will be displaced by this project?
No, there'll be no displacement whatsoever. And by the way, I just got an iPad for my birthday and I'm struggling with it.
Okay, because I always punch this in Google Maps and I saw like a very swanky building.
Oh no, there's the property is right now 2-story, built in the 30s or the 40s, brick, typical New York City old school manufacturing building. You probably could put it in any borough and it would fit in. And they use it for auto parts distribution. The family distributes auto primarily for taxis, things like that. And of course, the writing is on the wall that the auto parts business is changing through the years. And some of their employees are local, but a lot of their employees are also in the Bronx, where they have another location. And that's where they will be doing most of their distribution from when they leave this location. So nobody's losing their jobs. They're not shutting down their business, but technology is changing things, of course. So there's only so long people are going to need, a car battery like we need them now. So that's what they're planning for, and that's what's moving. The direction's moving.
So no existing housing that someone has to move.
Oh no, not housing at all. I thought you meant jobs. No housing whatsoever.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to give the rest of the commission a chance here, see if they have any final questions for the applicant team. Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. We're going to move on to the rest of the hearing, and thanks to all of you for being here today. I see. Thanks. I see three additional people signed up to testify. Just will note that if you are interested, now is the moment to sign up. The first up will be Corwin Mason of the Community Church of Astoria. Whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Hey. Yes, good morning, City Planning Commissioners. My name is Pastor Corwin S. Mason. I'm the Senior Pastor of the Community Church of Astoria, located at 1442 Broadway for 88 years. As an advocate for my community, I'm always looking for projects that will bring truly affordable options to our residents. New affordable housing in Western Queens is not a desire, but rather a need. Many NYCHA residents are living in substandard conditions where they are constantly overlooked and grossly undeserved. Affordable housing is incredibly limited, leaving many residents with no way out of the NYCHA cycle. Excuse me. I'm writing to express my support for the 35-01 Vernon Boulevard project. This project is a glimpse of hope for thousands of Astoria residents seeking new affordable housing. I strongly believe that this project is a step in the right direction, working with reliable nonprofit partners like Urban Upbound to ensure local hiring and job training. Please accept this testimony as my support for the rezoning. Thank you, Pastor Mason.
Thank you very much, Pastor Mason. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're going to go on now to Corinne Haynes. I'm sorry if I've done damage to your name here, but from the Queensbridge Tenant Association. Corinne, please introduce yourself properly here. My apologies, and whenever you're ready.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Greetings to the Community Board 1. My name is Corinne Haynes. You didn't watch that up. You said it really
Oh, great.
well.
Excellent.
I am a resident of Queensbridge Houses for 60 years now, and I am currently the new president of the Residents Association. And I invite the idea of new housing. I believe that it provides opportunities for upgrading the living standards and the conditions in our surrounding areas. This project at 3501 is going to allow us to have more possibilities of affordable housing, new and affordable housing in this Western Queens area. I, as an advocate for my community, am completely excited to introduce this project to the residents and the probability of them being able to move from one resident sector to another, which is in the neighboring area. So in lieu of this, I strongly believe that this project is a step in the right direction toward more housing opportunities, especially the affordable 2 and 3 bedroom units. That's huge. So I'd like to submit this presentation as supporting this project and urge you to do the same. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Queensbridge Houses residents.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Don't go anywhere. We have a question for you from Commissioner Goodridge. We appreciate your testimony today. Commissioner.
Hi, thank you so much for your testimony. I was wondering how you found out about the hearing.
How I found out about the hearing?
Yes.
I'm connected to many of the community-based organizations. I am a member of Urban Upbound, and I sit on several committees. I have since the inception of the pandemic.
Thank you.
So I've attended some of the community board meetings, and I've become aware of it.
Were you able to speak with the developer?
Was I able to speak with the developer for this project? I was on a committee that I didn't ask any questions, but I was able to hear the presentation.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodridge. And thank you very much, Ms. Haynes, for your testimony. We're now going to go on to the next speaker, Victoria Kammer.
Wait, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Can I ask one other question of the still here?
Hold on. Let's see if we can. Let's see if she's still here.
She She is unmuted and can respond. Yeah, so if you ask your question, she should be.
Okay, Ms. Haynes, if you're still there, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, great.
Okay, I have just one other question. When at the meeting where residents like yourself from NYCHA were able to hear about the project, was it only NYCHA residents or was it also other residents in the community that are not part of Queensbridge houses?
Can you repeat that question, please? It wasn't too clear to me.
When you mentioned a meeting where you were able to find out about this project, at that meeting, was it only for NYCHA residents or were there other residents that are in the community that are not part of Queensbridge houses?
When I was briefed, it was only for NYCHA residents, but I'm sure they went to other places.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to Ms. Kammer, Victoria Kammer. Whenever you are ready.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Today I'll be reading on behalf of Pastor Gilbert Pickett Sr. He's unable to make it today, but asked that I extend his support of this project. Good morning. My name is Pastor Gilbert Pickett Sr. I'm the moderator of the Eastern Baptist Association, an association of 120 churches, primarily in Queens, Kings, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. Additionally, I'm the senior pastor of Mount Baptist Church. As a lifelong resident of Queens and a passionate advocate for my community, I continually seek opportunities to support projects that bring new housing and investment to a community where many of my congregants I represent live. I am writing today to support the proposed 3501 Vernon Boulevard rezoning project because I believe this investment will benefit the residents at large. This rezoning will not only provide new affordable housing options, which is desperately needed, but will also provide a unique makerspace / community center, which will support the entrepreneurial spirit of our community. For many aspiring entrepreneurs and small businesses in Western Queens, makerspace is a massive barrier. Space is expensive and limited, which stunts the growth of emerging small businesses and startups. I echo the community board's suggestion to incorporate the makerspace and applaud the development team for taking action and taking this into consideration. I am confident with the help of trusted nonprofit partners like Urban Upbound, this space will be an incredible resource to our community. We've seen firsthand the impact that incubating small businesses has and the life-changing impact it has on the residents of our community. As a lifelong resident of Queens, I want to see my community flourish, and I look forward to welcoming this project as a new neighbor. I ask that you please consider this project for your approval. Thank you for your time and consideration. Reverend Gilbert Pickett. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kammer. We appreciate your being here. I do not see any questions from the commission, so we'll thank you for your testimony today. Seeing no other speakers signed up on this item, I will give one final chance, see if anybody is here to speak. Seeing none, we're going to close the hearing on this first item, 3501 Vernon Boulevard, and I will go to the secretary for the second public hearing today.
Borough Brooklyn, calendar number 28, Broadway Triangle, Bartlett Crossing, CD1, calendar number 28, C220209 HAK, public hearing in the matter of an application for UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning Broadway Triangle, Bartlett Crossing.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll just catch up to you for a sec. Excellent. Okay, we have on behalf of the applicant team, we have Charlie Stewart and Frank Lang. Welcome. You can proceed as soon as you are ready here.
Thank you, Chair Garodnick. And hi, everyone. My name is Charlie Stewart. I'm a project manager with St. Nick's Alliance here to present Bartlett Crossing Site A2. Next slide, please. HPD is the applicant for our ULURP submission, and our land use actions are listed here. Next slide, please. Our development team consists of 4 Brooklyn-based not-for-profit organizations, including Los Sudes, Riseboro, St. Nick's, and UJO. Our builder is Mega Contracting, and the architect for Bartlett Crossing is Magnuson Architecture and Planning. Next slide, please. So here's an aerial view of the 4 development sites that comprise the overall Broadway Triangle project. Next slide. And here's an aerial, zoomed in aerial view. Site C will be the first site to begin construction this summer. Site B is currently in the planning phase. This site will consist of 2 buildings, one on the north end of the lot and the other on the south, with a landscape courtyard between them. And sites A1 and A2 are located on separate blocks, but will be developed as one project. Site A2 is the smallest site in the project and is the only one that requires ULURP, because the other sites were approved for disposition back in 2009. Next slide, please. So here are some stats on the overall project, which will provide much needed affordable housing, landscaped open space for resident use, and sustainable building features. We're also providing over 10,000 square feet of community facilities for the neighborhood. Next slide. And so this next slide just narrows our focus down to Bartlett Crossing, which consists of site A1 and A2, which are highlighted in yellow here. These 2 sites combine to provide 78 affordable housing units and 1 supers unit, as well as the features listed here. Next slide, please. And finally, this slide narrows our focus down even more to the ULURP site, site A2. This building has 29 units of affordable housing, with all of the sustainability features as the overall project, as well as a landscaped rear yard, a community room, bike storage, and an 8th floor laundry room connected to a roof terrace. Next slide. Here we're showing the affordability and unit mix in the 2 sites that make up Bartlett Crossing. The ULURP site is highlighted here in yellow. It has 3 formerly homeless units, 3 units at 30, 40, and 50% of AMI, 11 units at 60%, and 6 units at 80%. Of the 29 units, 7 are studios, 14 are 1 bedrooms, and 8 are 2 bedrooms. Next slide, please. And here we're just showing the ranges of rent for each affordability level and the corresponding income limits. Next slide, please. Here's a rendering of the building. The building structure will be block and plank, and like the other sites, sites A and B, the facade will be a fiberglass reinforced concrete panel system that will create a unified look and feel across all of the buildings in this project. Next slide, please. And here's our anticipated timeline. We certified into ULURP in December and hope to have approval by late summer and early fall. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation, and we welcome any questions you might have.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to see if commissioners have questions on this this item here. Give them a second. Commissioner Burney.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. We heard at the review session that we had a favorable report back from the community board. We hadn't heard yet from the borough president, and I wondered if that had come in yet, if we'd heard anything from the BP's office.
I believe it had. I believe on Monday morning, the approval came through from the borough president approving the submission.
Okay, and were there conditions, or was it a general?
I don't believe so. I would want DCP to confirm that, but I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney. Commissioner Levin.
Not a question, but just an observation. It's great. I'm sorry about the construction upstairs. It's great to see these projects underway. It's been a long time that the Broadway Triangle rezoning, I don't know. It was the first hearing I sat on when I joined the commission in 2009. And here we are finally getting something built. So that's really a good thing. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'm going to give a last shot here, see if anybody else has any questions or comments. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't see any other commissioners. I also don't see anybody who wishes to speak on this item. So with that, I'm going to close the hearing on the Broadway Triangle Bartlett crossing matter, and I'm going to ask the secretary to call the third item for today.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 29, 2300 Cropsey Avenue, CD 11, C200358ZMK, public hearing in the matter of application for a zoning map amendment concerning 2300 Cropsey Avenue.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We have, hold on a second, I'm on the wrong item. Bear with me for 1 second. Aha, okay. We have an applicant team here, which includes Richard Lobel, Alex Liu, Kevin Williams, Michael Kang, and Fayan Betan. And I'm going to ask them to take center stage here for 2300 Cropsey Avenue as soon as they're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. I'm here to make a 3-minute presentation. The remainder of the applicant team is available for questions. Can we have the next slide? So this is the 2300 Cropsey Avenue rezoning. By way of a summary, this is merely for a commercial overlay, C24 overlay, to be placed over the existing R6 zoning district. We're seeking a zoning map amendment to rezone the development site block 6471 lot 109, and then would have small portions of adjacent lots additionally covered by the overlay. The proposed zoning map amendment will permit commercial ground floor use within an as-of-right residential and community facility building at 2300 Cropsey Avenue. The building is largely complete. It is a 23-story as-of-right mixed-use building, which is under construction. The proposal would allow for ground floor 35,000 square feet of commercial use, which, as we can see from the maps, which we will demonstrate in a moment, is sorely needed in the surrounding area. The building envelope remains the same. This is merely for use on the ground floor. Next slide. You can see from the zoning map that the underlying district is an R6 district, and importantly, we note that there is a shortage of commercial overlays in the surrounding area. So you see on Bath Avenue to the north, there's 3 blocks which have the existing overlay. There's really a shortage of commercial availability here, which is proposed in order to service the surrounding community, which is very dense residential as well as some senior housing and such. Next slide. This is a more focused tax map showing the area of the rezoning, primarily the 45,000 square foot plus or minus development site, as well as the surrounding parcels. If you could forward 2 slides to the area map, we can see why this rezoning is particularly appropriate. First of all, Cropsey Avenue here at 120 feet wide is a wide thoroughfare, which can easily handle any additional commercial traffic, which we don't intend there will be a lot, but to the extent that you have a wide street here, an extra wide street, it is well able to handle this. You also see the areas in blue. Those are 2 surrounding nursing homes, which have elderly residents who would benefit from being able to shop for groceries at a food store adjacent to their parcel. In addition, although there are some M districts to the south and southwest, those are across the Belt Parkway, not easily accessible by local residents. Next slide. The next slide merely demonstrates the building and some of the pictures of the surrounding area. As you can see, Cropsey Avenue, a wide street, a major thoroughfare in the area, and the building shell as is up at the property. If you want to fast forward through the next few pictures, you come to a site plan, which merely demonstrates the center of the building, the three-story commercial base, actually ground floor commercial and community facility uses above, as well as the surrounding residential tower rising to 23 stories. With that, I and the applicant, I would be happy to answer any questions, as well as the applicant team, and thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Let me just kick this off here. The building is presently under construction, correct?
Correct.
And the base is being built, and under existing zoning, that would be a community facility?
Yeah, community facility, doctor's office. That was actually the original intention and design. After conversations with the community and the council member, there was a determination that commercial use would really be a much better use here, particularly in terms of a food store.
And is there any actual engagement with a particular food store? Or is it just is it conceptual at this stage of the game?
There have been some preliminary conversations, of course, given the uncertainty surrounding ULURP and the rezoning process, there's been nothing definitive to date, but the owner has reached out and talked to several food stores. So we're hopeful that in the event we were successful, that a food store would be found shortly thereafter.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, turning to the commission here. Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, Mr. LaBelle, the community board expressed some concern about the loading process and deliveries for the supermarket, and also concern about conflicts with what I gather is now a charter school planned for the remainder of the community facility space on the second floor. Can you tell us how all of those movements of goods and students is going to happen?
Sure. So thank you for the question. So there were several items discussed and operations going forward where, for example, the building would not be loading and unloading on Shore Parkway. That was one of the conditions that the community board requested, which we're happy to comply with. There's going to be an effort to load and unload within the building. So to take any potential truck deliveries, bring them into the cellar of the building and load and unload there. There's also a commitment, and Kevin Williams from Equity Environmental is on the phone with us. We've done many school projects with Kevin, particularly at BSA, where we're frequently there for special permits for schools in C8 and M1 districts. And so there will be a more detailed traffic study, which will be produced. There will be an additional study 12 months after development to make sure that we're maximizing the opportunities to bring kids safely to and from the school. Yeah, those are the conversations that we were having with the community board, and we think we're going to be able to deliver and to create a safe environment, as well as to not allow for conflicts between store deliveries and the student drop-offs. We actually think that in that respect, we'll be okay because the school hours will be somewhat trailing the delivery hours of the food store in the morning.
Okay. Is there an operator yet for the charter school?
There is. My understanding is that it's the Hebrew language charter school already operating in Brooklyn. So this would be an additional location.
This is an expansion move for them? Okay.
Correct. We're thrilled to have them on.
Back, just following up on your description of, you said they would try to be bringing supermarket deliveries into the building. How does that work? By the trucks show up with all the food. Where are they going to park on the curb?
So there's a curb cut and access to the parking area in the cellar, so they'd be able to come in, and so that's what's sought. And we've done some detailed walkthroughs with members of the community. We completely understand the concerns, but we really are hopeful that we can develop a safe plan. We do have a lot of width on Cropsey, but it's just a matter of getting more vehicles off the street, and we think we can do that.
Okay, so you think there might be room to accommodate all of that in the parking area?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Levin. All right, Mr. LaBelle, it seems like that is all we've got for you today. So thank you for the presentation. We have no other members of the public signed up to speak. So with that, we'll close the hearing on this matter, and I will ask the secretary to call the next item. Thank you.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 30 and 31. 840 Lorimer Street rezoning, CD1. Calendar number 30, C210299 ZNK. Calendar number 31, N210300ZRK. Public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning text amendments concerning 840 Lorimer Street.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. I'm going to ask my team to assist here on the applicant team and names.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So we have Richard LaBelle, Richard Benenfield, Sam Fagenbaum, Elisa Gelnick, Kevin Williams, David Parnez, and Amanda Ionati. Applicant team presentation for 10 minutes.
Whenever you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Good morning again, Richard LaBelle of Sheldon LaBelle PC. I'm with David Parness, who is the applicant here for the 840 Lorimer Street rezoning. We've got a team presentation today. I will be making a presentation with regards to the land use items. We will then have Richard Bienenfeld and Sam Feigenbaum from Bienenfeld Architecture discussing the architecture and context, and Kevin Williams discussing environmental assessment issues with regards to the rezoning. Next slide. So this rezoning would take an existing mixed-use district in the form of primarily an M12 R6 MX8 district, as well as a portion of an R6A C24 district, and rezone these districts to a C45D zoning district. This would permit for the facilitate the development of 840 Lorimer Street with a new cellar and plus cellar mixed use commercial and residential building, approximately 83,000 square feet, and a floor area ratio of 5.54. This would also permit 74 dwelling units. Unlike the prior rezoning, this would require mandatory inclusionary housing. As such, the applicant has chosen to map options 1 and 2. At option 1, as projected, there would be 19 affordable units out of the total of 74. Next slide. So you can see from the next slide the zoning map, which demonstrates several things. First of all, the existing district M12 R6, which is prevalent in much of the area surrounding the property, as well as McCarran Park. This permits at an R6 zoning a relatively robust floor area ratio of 4.8, including at the site, which seeks an R7D residential equivalent, which would result in a 5.6 FAR. So the difference in density is not that great. The difference in land use at the site would be in that this would allow for the creation of more residential units, and particularly more units on the park. Next slide. This is a more focused copy of the zoning map demonstrating the C45D here. The additional density here we feel is merited. Next slide. Particularly in light of the land use map, you can see the site has good access from both Driggs and Lorimer Street, as well as the expansiveness of the park, which acts as kind of an open area and would allow for this modest increase in density. Next slide. So there are pictures of the existing facility as well as the surrounding area. Importantly, and I think you can page through some of the photos, there is existing density along the park, as we will show. I think the next slide we'd like is proposed development after the photos, which just shows the statistics around the proposal. Again, this is a proposed 10-story plus cellar building. Next slide. If you can keep going to the next side with text, that'd be great. Okay, good. Again, without belaboring, because I want to give time for the other applicant team members, a 10-story building. This would have 30 spaces in the cellar and ground floor, and the unit mix as shown on the slide. With that, if you just want to forward to the proposed plans, we note that we did some building studies and demonstrate that there are rather tall buildings ranging from 7 stories to 18 stories along the park, but none of those buildings, of course, developed with MIH. With that, I would introduce Richard Bienenfeld and Sam Feigenbaum, who can discuss architecture on the project, after which Kevin Williams will speak. Richard, Sam?
Okay, thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so these slides really showing the difference between what the proposed development density looks like in context, shown in contrast with the way the site looks now. Obviously, the bottom picture shows the way it is now, and the top the way it is developed. Next slide. So our study shows a 10-story development. Both main facades of the development, one on Lorimer Street, one on Driggs Street, both face a park. The development of the facades as it's evolved, especially with communications with local community and the community board, community land use committee, resulted in a facade which was included a lot of glass to reflect the sky and the open area around the building, but also introduced the masonry motif, which is typical of the industrial character of the existing neighborhood. And that was something which was requested by the local community. And we used a combination of both large expanses of glass and masonry. And of course, the masonry increases in surface area as we get closer to the street level. Next slide. Okay, these are the images that we did. We can go to the next slide. Those images, show the relationship of the building with the open space in the park. There is our development site in red. You can see it's facing both the park on Driggs and Lorimer. Next slide. That's the land use map. Next slide. That's the survey. We don't need to look at that right now. Next slide, please. And I think we'll go on from this to the next. All right, this is very, very hard. It's not legible, but it's a contrast between the zoning that we're proposing and the zoning that is now available, which Richard Lobel has already described. Next slide, please. And a study of the massing, how it is, and what it would be under current zoning and what we're asking for. Next slide, please. This is a floor-by-floor layout of the building. In the cellar, we have 16 parking spaces and a large pink area of commercial available to the retail stores above at grade level. Next slide. This is grade level. And again, the entrance into a parking facility, which would 14 cars on this level. And as I said, 16 below for the total of 30. Retail, both on Driggs and on Lorimer. Plus in the kind of like light pink area, that is the entrance into the residential portion of the building. Next slide. So as we go up above grade level, there is still commercial on the second floor, and there is residential on the second floor on Lorimer. Driggs has commercial on the second floor, and Lorimer has residential on the second floor. Next slide. We go up again, the third floor pretty much the same. Next slide. And now we're totally residential. We've used the geometries of the acute angle between the meeting of Driggs and Lorimer and the more orthogonal layout of the residential building itself. So those kind of like leftover spaces become opportunities for green space going all the way up through the building. This fourth and fifth floor. Residential space gets smaller as we go up. Let's look at the next slide. And the building sets back a little bit from the 6th to the 8th. Next slide, 9th and 10th floor, the top 2 floors, and the building perimeter shrinks again providing ample opportunity on the setbacks for green roofs and some green development. Next slide. I think that's basically it for us.
I think we would give Kevin Williams 43 seconds to talk about environmental issues.
Okay. So as normal, City Environmental Quality Review Act requires a environmental assessment. We reviewed, for this land use, zoning and public policy, open space, shadows, historic and cultural resources, urban design and visual resources, hazard materials, transportation, air quality, and noise. Of those shadows, obviously, given the adjacency of the park, DEP reviewed a detailed shadows analysis. And, given the limits of the project, the shadows on the park are relatively modest. Transportation, we did a detailed pedestrian analysis that showed the area can accommodate. It doesn't trigger significant vehicles. And so the environmental assessment had a negative declaration on all impact categories.
Great. Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Does that do it?
That does it.
Okay, great. Thank you all for your application and for all that information. I'm going to kick this off perhaps right where we just ended with Mr. Williams. We went very quickly through the slide on the heights of the buildings in the surrounding area as they relate to this one. And I did want to hear a little bit more from you, Mr. LaBelle, about the context, or perhaps from anybody on your team, and also perhaps from Mr. Williams on the subject of the shadows potentially, or what you say is minimal, on the park.
Yep.
Sure, I'll start from land use and then maybe Kevin can pick up just as far as impacts. So I think that what you're referring to, Chair, is we showed a study of surrounding building heights, but I think what actually is more compelling is that much of the discussion with the community board was around potential development under the existing zoning versus proposed. And under an existing R6 district, and we find this oftentimes with longstanding districts, but the existing R6, of course, would allow for, in a non-contextual zoning district, rather robust and tall development. So the total height of a building here as of right would rise to 9 stories and a total permitted height of 110 feet, whereas the total height of the proposed building here in the R7D would be 10 stories and 115 feet, a minor variance of 5 feet between the two scenarios. So, with that, understandably, the square footages of those buildings is different, and the uses generated by those buildings is different. Primarily, in an as-of-right building, you're looking at a building that's roughly 64,000 square feet versus a proposed building of 83,000 square feet. But what happens is you primarily are in a condition where you are filling in the rear of the building. You're allowing for larger floor plates so that you're able to provide more residential units. And importantly, if you looked at an as-of-right scenario, you'd be looking at roughly 7 units of affordability with inclusionary housing in an IHDA versus the proposed 19 for the MIH. So I think, as far as the proposal and the context, both an as-of-right scenario compares well to this in that you really do get affordable units on the park. I mean, that's really what you're allowed here, what it provides here. What's been compelling lately in conversations with Community Board 1 is bringing in more affordability and allowing really units to people in this area who would not otherwise have access to units on the park. Several of those buildings, particularly the taller buildings, are condo buildings, which have different financial structures. With that, Kevin, do you want to briefly talk? Because I know that your office generated some of those height studies. If you could talk about impacts as far as shadows.
Absolutely. Maybe it'd be helpful, Chair, if I shared my screen just to walk through some diagrams. Certainly helps rather than just generalized characterizations. Okay. So what we did is we prepared, sort of a tour of the heights. And so, our site is roughly here. And as you can see, just visually, the sort of heights that are present on the park. And then, a different view. And then what we did is we took the city's three-dimensional model. We combined that with data from the city on the heights from the NAVD. So, it's actual heights plus grade, but this area is relatively flat. And here is sort of the existing site. Here are some recent developments that are, directly adjacent to the site that are approximately at the same height as the proposed project. But all of those in red are 90 feet and above. The ones in orange are 70 to 90 feet. And that this basically just documents those building heights, and then kind of gives you an identification of these types of the projects, and we're happy to supply this to the council, and so a little bit more, so just directly adjacent to the site, and so that's kind of that tour. And what I also have, if I can share, is the shadow study. So folks that may be members of the council that may be familiar with how shadow study is done, we basically look at 4 seasons. And given the location of the Western Hemisphere, we add on basically 4.2 times the height of the building to come up with a worst case scenario based on the position of the sun during 4 periods of the year. And so I think starting with, initially, let me just go up a little bit here. So starting with December, so this is, we look at basically an hour and a half before daylight and an hour and a half after daylight, because basically considered, it's dark and the quality of light is not considered an impact. That's per seeker requirements. But basically what this diagram shows, this is the December period, is the time.
Mr. Williams, can I interrupt you for a sec? Are you
Yes.
intending to be sharing something on your screen?
Oh, yes.
Because we can't see it if you are. I just.
Were you able? Yeah.
Sounds
So were
like
you able to see?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can see it.
So this is the height. Were you not able to see the height presentation?
We saw the height presentation.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So, and now can you see my? Can
Yes.
you see the shadow diagrams?
We can see one. We can see
Okay.
figure 2.83.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, it's my screen showing something else. But yeah, so what you see here is the December analysis period. So shadows will be introduced starting at 8:51, and then go off of the park basically by about 9:20. So it's very small incremental shadows early in the morning and wouldn't impact any other resource. And what so obviously during December, we're not affecting the sort of planting season, or generally the quality and use. And this is sort of relatively minor shadows. Then when we move to March and September, it's sort of the same thing, except a little bit more shadow coming in the morning, exiting the site, basically about 9 o'clock. And in March and September, the park, and actually, can you see the aerial?
We can.
Now? Yeah.
Yes.
So the area affected, a lot of that already has trees present, but again, the way that Parks Department looks at this is they look at the duration and the sort of surface area created. And, when you compare the existing or an as of right to this, and that's actually the study that we did, but this, I'd rather just show you the naked, sort of impacts of the height of this building on the park. It's, relatively nominal, 2 hours. And obviously that moves across, in the morning. So, a large part of the park, the majority of it is still available for enjoyment. This doesn't affect the growing season. That's a passive park area. So, and also shaded by trees. And so June, we have a similar thing. The shadow still exits by about 8 o'clock and moves off. It clips a corner of the other section of McCarran Park. But again, that's like a relatively small corner, heavily treed and wooded. And you can see that here. So it would be affecting this sort of corner here and basically running through this area here. And then in terms of, and so those are the only periods that we affect. So so there's three, actually, so we have March and September. They all kind of have the same characteristics, basically exiting the park early in the morning and clipping this corner. And there's more detailed analysis, but in terms of the incremental shadows. So this orange area is the incremental shadow created by the building, given the adjacent buildings that are already casting shadows. So we're basically clipping this area, up to 518, from 4 o'clock to 518. And then in August, it's basically this narrow band here up to 927. And then May and August is basically the same. That's the whole orange area reaching out to this building across the lawn that exits the site after 727. And that's basically it. And so we characterize here the full duration, but this didn't take into account surface area. So parks on the whole determined that the impact of shadows, given the siting of the building and its adjacency to the park, did not ultimately result in a significant environmental impact. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And if I understand you correctly, what you're showing is the straight up impact of the new building, not the incremental additional impact as against the as of right building.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Plus, I would note that our analysis assumes an even taller building at 115 feet plus a 10-foot bulkhead. So we're actually analyzing 125-foot full volume on the site, whereas the applicant's proposed has a setback, the height is lower. So we're looking at the absolute sort of max envelope of impact under the rezoning rather than the applicant's proposal.
Great. Thank you for that. And back to you, Mr. LaBelle, on the C45. Can you say a little bit more about the land use rationale for C45 here in the context of what's around?
Yeah, and I know this was raised at the commission's review session. The discussion and decision on the C45D was really done in conjunction with the Brooklyn office, and was really twofold. The first was kind of an underlying need for office space in the area. Frequently for Community Board 1, we're in front of the commission for the Industrial Business Incentive Area Special Permit, which is warmly received generally by the community as well as the commission in creating additional office space where that would not be available. So against that backdrop, you've got an MX district here, which currently allows for mixed use and would allow for commercial and office use. And so the idea around the C45D was merely to enable the applicant to raise that commercial use in terms of office use on the second and third stories. It was a strategy and a land use rationale very much developed jointly with the Brooklyn office. So that was really the rationale. To the extent that a greater proportion of the building was residential, I think that would be fine. But having said that, the C45D merely allows for the optionality to put that additional office up there, and we think that there would likely be interest in the surrounding area. So that was kind of the reason we chose it.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. LaBelle, I wanted to go back to the site and particularly the existing business that this project would essentially surround, which looks like a restaurant with some residential units above. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm just curious, was there an attempt to acquire that site as a part of this assemblage or not?
Yes, so there was. I mean, it was. I would call it an attempt to acquire, but also to partner with that site. The site itself is very small at roughly 1,600 square feet in lot area. So I think the likelihood on a going forward basis would be that something would likely happen jointly. It just makes sense for both parcels. Having said that, there were discussions, but they didn't lead to any sort of agreement. So that's where we left it.
Okay, so admittedly, this is a hypothesis since, you know, your project is still going through the approval process, but were it to be approved and the existing use continues to be there, what kinds of accommodations would you envision in terms of essentially constructing this building around a business and several residential units?
Right, so I'll start. I don't know whether or not Richard Bienenfeld, the architect, might want to address this as well. This was raised at the community board. It was actually a little bit of an afterthought in that the community board generated its recommendations. After receiving the recommendations, we received an addendum which discussed potentially creating an escrow to address any construction issues that occurred around that lot. So I'm not an expert in construction, and so I might defer to the architect on that. Having said that, the discussion really was around offering what would be typical protections. We would likely need some sort of access agreement. So there would be further discussions with that lot, and then essentially offering the protections as would be offered to any adjacent parcel during the course of construction. Again, a challenge and one that would be alleviated in the extent that a partnership was reached. But having said that, I know the owner has expressed that they would be, the construction would be sensitive to that. Richard Bienenfeld, I don't know if there's anything you're able to add.
Well, all over New York City, we see situations where buildings have to be built next to existing buildings, for various reasons, but zero lot line protections are all over New York City building laws. So that protects the property, but the ownership has been in conversation with the people who own the corner property, that they would be assured that they would be spared from any negative impact from the construction. And there are many ways of protecting the property and engineering and construction methods that can be employed will be employed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Other questions from the commission? Okay. Seeing none, and seeing no members of the public wishing to testify, although I'm going to give them a final chance if anybody's here wishing to be heard. Check.
Yes, I'm sorry, not regarding this hearing, but just in general.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Who's speaking right now? Is that? Sorry. Oh, Commissioner Goodrich. I didn't see your hand raised. Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Goodrich. Wait, hold on a second. You have nothing on this item?
No.
Hold your fire for 1 second.
Okay.
I see no members of the public wishing to testify on this item. So I'm going to close the hearing on this item. And now I'm going to go to Commissioner Goodrich. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I have I just thought it might be helpful to have a quick discussion, just for my own edification. I am a little bit confused, or even perhaps maybe the right word is concerned. When we've had certain hearings and the proposed application is for rezoning and it's for building housing, and it is not that many affordable units, let's say, 100 out of 500 or 20%. I've noticed that there will be, the developer might speak to NYCHA residents, and they will come and support and testify in support of the project. But what concerns me is that, for example, I believe it was in the Harlem 145 project where some of the residents who aren't NYCHA residents came and testified. We didn't hear from the developer. So I find that a little bit concerning, especially within the context that in some projects, the developers have said that if there even is secondary displacement, that the people who definitely will not be affected are NYCHA residents, because they obviously have more protection by, they're not in market rate housing, and they have a little bit more protection by, obviously that's debatable, but they have a little bit more protection by being in NYCHA housing. So I wanted to discuss this because I wonder if I'm missing something, but
is your question, Commissioner? Is your question?
I'm throwing it out there as
certain
discussion. Yeah.
Why certain people are coming to testify and be heard, or are you asking about the process of outreach by the private applicants? Or let me understand the question a little better.
Okay, so just to clarify, obviously we want everyone to come out and testify. So I don't have a concern about the fact that people are coming and testify. We would love to have more. What my concern is I'll just be blunt. Is there like a use of certain tenants and maybe providing them with information that may be inaccurate to come in support of housing and saying that it's affordable when it's actually not? So for example, to be honest, I'm really not understanding, I'm really not understanding this dynamic. 900 units and 100 would be affordable, and then tenants coming to testify saying that they spoke with the developer who didn't speak with other tenants who would be impacted more than the NYCHA residents who might have less impact and secondary displacement of that project, coming to say that it will bring affordable housing when in fact it's very few affordable housing units. I would really love some clarification, or if anyone has any insight into that, that would be really helpful. I think one concern is developers speaking with NYCHA residents and not other residents in the, affected area. That's one concern. And then having them come and testify. Another concern is how the developers are phrasing or framing the information to residents for them to say that it is going to bring overwhelming affordable housing when in fact the data shows that it's not. I don't think it's affordable if it's 900 units and 100 or 80 of them are going to be affordable. So I'm just throwing that out there at least as a discussion or conversation.
Okay. I got it.
So
no, that's fair. Look, I think what I would say is two things. One, I don't think we have, any concrete evidence that there's what applicants are speaking to one group over another, or things, because they have to go through their formal processes in any event before they come to us. Whoever else they reach out to and how they ask people to come and speak their minds and who turns up, that is, somewhat out of our control. But on your point about, what is and what is not affordable, you're talking about some of the fundamental questions of the day here. We're seeing applications under an MIH program, which is allowed for and provided by zoning. And, there may be just a philosophical difference on whether that is sufficient, for the city. That is the tool that we have to link private applications to producing affordable housing. But you may want to just make that point to the applicants as they come, because it certainly is a reasonable conversation for us to be having.
I would love to hear what other commissioners, what their insight or experience, because obviously this is, haven't been to as many meetings, but I know that the ones in the last 2 months, I've definitely seen this dynamic. So please, if anyone has any insight.
Well, one of the things I would suggest is, we can do a review with the commission, perhaps one of our next briefing sessions on the subject of MIH and, and what it is and how it is, how it's coming to be, because, we have the ability to connect this in the context of zoning, which is what we look at here. I think we would all like to see more, but we have this tool to connect private resources to deliver a very important public good to us here. So if that would be useful, we certainly can do it.
It's also it's not just the MIH. It is specifically meeting with one group of tenants, which some of them came and testified and say that that's one dynamic. And they might not be as affected by the project as the tenants who would be, and then having them come and testify and say that it's going to bring deep affordability when it's not. I mean, I think that's a little.
Well, I hear you. Okay, yeah. I got it. Well, listen, that's something which we are. I think we held on. We may have some hands raised here, so I'm just going to let others participate. But I do think that when it comes to the public hearing, for the purpose of this agency, we want to make sure that everybody who has an interest in saying something, whether it is to say that something is deeply affordable or not affordable enough, or anywhere in between, that they have a platform to be heard and be respected in the process. So that to me is mission critical. I see a hand raised by Commissioner Ortiz, and then I also see Commissioner Levin on my screen. So I'm going to assume that perhaps she wants to be heard too, but I'm first going to go to Commissioner Ortiz.
Chair Grodnick, I would say that it's probably a good idea to have some sort of primer, and not necessarily at CPC. I know when there are major projects that have come before us, we have smaller group sessions which give us an opportunity to ask questions, learn, inform ourselves outside of this forum, and it's appropriate to do so. So I would maybe make that suggestion in smaller groups so we don't have quorum. But I think that's important to give Commissioner Goodrich an opportunity and others, because MIH, those of us who were on the commission when MIH was passed, have gone through many hours of hearings and understand all the background, and it's such a huge and significant tool for the city to address our affordable housing needs. That new commissioners should have a deeper understanding of that. And I think we would all benefit. So anyone who wants to participate in that might be able to, but that's just a suggestion.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Levin, I do not see your hand raised, so I'm going to assume you do not want to be heard.
No,
I'm going to go. You do?
No hand up. No hand up.
No hand up. Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Cerullo.
Well, I just want to add, I think the issues that Commissioner Goodrich has raised are very important. I think procedurally, I think all of those questions that may come to mind about who developers are speaking with, what presentations they're making, which parts of a community are having information shared with them versus members of a community that may not be, are important for us to know. And I think they're fair questions to ask during the public hearing process. I think they all go to credibility of what information that we're being provided, which then becomes really, it turns to us to make a determination on whether or not we agree or not. I think those points fit very neatly into, maybe I'm just framing them somewhat differently, but I think they fit very neatly into what our role and responsibility is as a commission. I don't know if we could or should, and I'm not suggesting this is what's being suggested, control who people speak to in the community during their process, or require who people speak to in the process. I think the community board's involvement, the elected officials' involvement, and our involvement in the development and process of land use is sort of covers what we would hope would be all of the bases. But I do believe asking those questions at a meeting of a developer, or as Commissioner Goodrich did today, even as someone who was testifying from the community as to what their understanding is, what they may have learned, is valuable information for us to then make the final determinations in terms of the process we're involved in ULURP. But I don't know that doing it any more than that is what we should be doing. But again, we're not talking specific details here. We're talking concept. I think the concept is a good one. I think we have the forum already to do that. And perhaps what we need to do is exercise it more effectively and more regularly. And I think what Commissioner Goodrich is raising shows how we each bring different points of view to this commission. And it's really helpful because you have me thinking in a different way, perhaps, than I've thought in the past. And I think that's valuable. But I just want to share, you said to share, that's sort of my immediate impression, that important issues, I'm not sure how far we should go in terms of forcing that process, but I think we should be clear on asking those questions so we can make a determination as to the credibility of the presentation, the information that we're given, and then we could move on through the rest of the sort of the land use process. So thank you for raising those issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Cerullo. Before we close out today, I will note, I think that's a fair point. If applicants believe that one or more members of the commission is going to ask the question of who did you reach out to as part of this process, they will likely start including it as part of their presentation and also help us to evaluate that issue. So I thank you, Commissioner Goodrich, for raising this, and thank you, Commissioner Cerullo. And Commissioner Goodrich will follow up on how best to think about the MIH.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm not unclear. I think it was suggested before I need a training or so. I'm not unclear about MIH. I think just to respond to that, I'm not sure why that was suggested, but you know, it is exactly as Commissioner Cerullo pointed out. It's not, you know, obviously if we have issues with MIH, that's a whole different discussion, but I'm more concerned about everything that he phrased it perfectly. And it's not to say that people shouldn't come and testify. It's more that us as commissioners, maybe these are things that we should be thinking about and asking for each of the presentations, or at least when it comes up.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. Okay. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to ask the secretary if there's any other business before the commission today.
No, Chair Grodnick. There is no other business on the commission, but I do have some public information to share. For those of you who are unable to or did not wish to testify, you can submit written testimony online by selecting this here on the upcoming meetings page of the NYC Engage portal, through DCP's website, or by mailing your comment to City Planning Commission Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, New York, 10271.
Terrific. Thank you, Madam Secretary. And I want to thank the entire staff that was supportive of this hearing at City Planning. We appreciate your efforts today, as always. To the members of the public who came out to testify today, thank you. And of course, to the commissioners, thank you for your time and attention. And with that, this remotely held meeting is now adjourned. Thanks very much.
The time is 11:50.